At 3 a.m., the CEO Fiancée dragged her drained body home, softly speaking. "Honey, you waited at the Civil Affairs Bureau in vain today. Can we register tomorrow?" I sneered a single sentence, and she froze on the spot. At 3 a.m., when Shinji pushed open the door, the men's cologne on her was stronger than the smell of alcohol. She leaned against the entryway cabinet, her steps unsteady, her shirt collar badly wrinkled, and a black tie mark, not her style, pressed into her wrist. I sat on the living room sofa with two things in front of me: a used household registration book, a freshly printed project authorization revocation notice. Shinji-mun saw me, paused for a moment, then lowered her head, putting on a tired yet soft expression. "Yanjo, you're still awake." I didn't say anything. She walked over, sat down beside me, and reached out to touch my hand. I pulled away. Her movement froze for a second. Then she quickly forced a smile. "I'm really sorry about today. The company had an urgent matter. Jihang's overseas investors suddenly wanted to meet and I couldn't get away." She said it naturally. So naturally, it was as if me waiting at the Civil Affairs Bureau from 9:00 a.m. to 5 p.m. was just me being bored. So naturally, it was as if her ignoring my calls all day, not replying to messages, and offering no explanation could be brushed off with a simple urgent matter. I looked up at her. So the Civil Affairs Bureau was also a company emergency. Shinji-mun frowned. "Yanjo, don't be so sarcastic. I'm exhausted. Can you just cut me some slack?" As she spoke, her voice softened. "Honey, you waited at the bureau for nothing today. Let's register tomorrow." "Okay." When she called me honey, her tone was like coaxing a disobedient dog. In the past, I would have softened, would have noticed the red in her eyes, remembered her staying up late with stomach bleeding when she started her business, and made excuses for her. But not today. Today at 4:27 p.m. in the coffee shop across from the Civil Affairs Bureau, I received 3 secretly recorded videos. The first showed Shinji-man and Jihan coming out of a hotel elevator. The second showed Jihan with his arm around her shoulder, whispering in her ear, "Let him wait today. It'll teach him that without you, he's nothing." The third showed Shinji-man not pushing him away, only murmuring, "Don't mess around. I'll have him sign the authorization tomorrow." In that moment, I realized the Civil Affairs Bureau wasn't an accident. It was a setup. I leaned back on the sofa and let out a soft laugh. "Shinji-man, no need." She looked up. "No need for what?" I slid the revocation notice across the table to her. "I didn't wait for nothing today." Her expression shifted slightly. I said, word by word, "I waited for evidence of your betrayal and I waited for the deadline to revoke the LS house system authorization." Shinji-man's hands froze midair. She stared at the document, the exhaustion on her face slowly fading. "Pei Yen Xiao, what do you mean?" "It's simple." I picked up my phone and opened the email send log. Starting at 5 p.m. today, Mansion Technology's temporary commercial use rights for the Lance House system have expired. You didn't complete the registration, didn't fulfill the pre-marriage joint operation agreement, and didn't renew the authorization. I looked at her. "So, tomorrow's press conference can't use my system." The living room suddenly fell silent. Shinji-man was stunned for a few seconds, then laughed. Not a guilty laugh, but a cold sneer of being offended. "Pei Yen Xiao, are you crazy? The LS house system is a Mansion Technology project. All the equipment, servers, and team costs were paid by the company." I pulled out another document. The first version of the architecture is filed under my personal studio. The core algorithm is registered under my name. The company's costs only covered the testing environment, not the underlying authorization. She reached for the document. Her fingertips starting to tremble. "Did you investigate me?" "Not an investigation." I looked at her rumpled collar. "It's you forcing me to wake up." Shinji-man's face darkened. "Yanja, I know you're upset about today, but you can't take it out on the project. Tomorrow's press conference has 3 investors and Jihan has been preparing for a month. If you pull the authorization now, are you trying to ruin me?" Hearing Ji-hun's name, I finally laughed out loud. He prepared for a month. I tapped my phone and played a recording. Ji-hun's voice came through. "Relax. Someone like Pei Yenjo can be tamed with a marriage promise. He can write code, But he can't negotiate. I'll handle tomorrow's press conference. He won't cause trouble. Shinji Man's face went pale instantly. I stopped the recording. He really did prepare for a month. Prepared to take what's mine and claim it as his. She stood up, her voice rising. Were you eavesdropping on us? I stood up too. This is the hotel corridor's public area surveillance. You two were talking too loud. Not my fault. Her breathing quickened. I looked at her. Shinji Man, before today I thought we just had relationship issues. Now I know you didn't forget to register. You wanted me to wait at the Civil Affairs Bureau until I lost my temper, then make me sign away my last card. As those words fell, Shinji Man froze completely. Suddenly, urgent knocking came from outside the door. I didn't need to guess who it was. Shinji Man rushed over and opened the door. Ji-hung stood at the entrance, suit jacket draped over his arm, a hint of lingering smugness on his face. He saw me and raised an eyebrow. Yanju's still awake. Come on, man. Don't be so petty. Sure, man did it for the company today. I picked up the file folder on the table and walked over to him. Perfect timing. I handed him the withdrawal notice. At tomorrow's press conference, make sure you switch to a system that's truly yours. The smile on Ji-hang's face froze. Shinji Man reached out to stop me. Yanjo, don't be impulsive. I looked at her. I'm not being impulsive. From the moment you made me wait at the Civil Affairs Bureau for nothing, I stopped being your fiancé. I am the rights holder of the Lance House system. Ji-hung snatched the file, read just 2 lines, and his face changed. Meanwhile, on my phone screen, Shinji had just sent a message. Withdrawal notice delivered to partners. All external interfaces will auto-reese at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I put away my phone and turned back to my room. Behind me, Shinji Man finally panicked. Hey, Yanjo, stop right there. I didn't look back because the first blow had already landed. The next morning at 7:30, I was woken by the sound of arguing in the living room. Shinji Man's voice was low, but Ji-hang's voice wasn't. Sure, man, you can't let him mess this up. The press conference starts at 9:00. Interfaces freeze at 8 o'clock. Investors arrive at 8:30. Either you get him to withdraw the notice now or I can't go on stage. Shinji Man said, I'm working on it. Ji-hong sneered. Working on it? Doesn't he just want you to coax him? Register with him, give him some face, and he'll come back naturally. I pushed the door open. Both of them looked over. Ji-hung sat on the sofa like half the owner. Shinji Man stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, her eyes bloodshot. Seeing me, she immediately walked over. Yanjo, let's talk about what? I was in a bad mood last night. She took a breath, trying to lower her stance. Today's press conference is important. Restore the interfaces first. As for registration, we can go this afternoon. Ji-hun also stood up, forcing a smile. Yeah, Yanja. No need for men to compete. Don't worry, I'll mention your contribution at the press conference. Mention it. I looked at him. My 3 years of days and nights, my core algorithms, the pilot hospitals and supply chain resources I busted my ass to secure. In his mouth, it was only worth a mention. I walked to the dining table, picked up a glass of water. Who is the founding architect of the Lance House system in the press conference script? Ji-hang's face stiffened. Shinji Man frowned. Now is not the time to argue about this. Then when is? I looked at her. When he takes my achievements on stage, when the investors sign. When the press releases go out, when everyone knows Jiang is the project core, and then I argue. Shinji Man was silent for a second. Yanja Ji-hang just came back from abroad. He needs an opportunity. I laughed. So my stuff is his opportunity. Her face darkened. Don't make it sound so ugly. The company is mine. I have to consider the overall interest. Is there room for me in that overall interest? She didn't answer. Ji-hang adjusted his cufflinks casually, saying, Yanjo, you don't need to be so sensitive. Technical guys, it's fine to stay behind the scenes. If you actually go on stage, the investors might not understand you. I set down the glass. Do you understand? Ji-hang's smile faltered. I pulled out a tablet and opened a press conference script. Here, page 3. You wrote the dynamic keychain will complete multi-layer recursive verification locally on the user end. I turned the screen toward him. Explain it. What is local multi-layer recursive verification? Ji-hang's face instantly tensed. Shinji-man glanced at him. The corner of Ji-hang's mouth twitched. This is professional content. There's no need to discuss it here. If you can't explain it, don't get on stage. I pulled the tablet back. The API will freeze at 8 o'clock. It's not me throwing a tantrum. It's contract execution. Shinji-man finally couldn't hold back. Pei Yenjo. Her voice trembled. Do you have to turn this into a mess? Do you have any idea how much the company will lose if this launch goes down? I nodded. I know. She froze. I continued. A loss of 17 million in prepayments, 30 million in valuation commitments, and the overseas consulting contract Jihan just signed will also be voided. Jihan's face went completely pale. How do you know about my contract? I looked at him because in your contract, you used the authorization for the launch system as performance guarantee. I pulled out a photocopy and that authorization doesn't belong to you. Shinji-man whipped her head toward Ji-hung. You put Launcho in the guarantee. Ji-hung's eyes flickered. It was a business necessity. Business necessity? I tossed the contract onto the table. You didn't ask me. Didn't notify legal. No board meeting minutes. You just packaged my system as your own performance asset. Ji-hung, you've got bigger balls than I thought. Ji-hung finally dropped the act. Hey Yenjo, don't forget you've been eating and sleeping at the Shin house for 3 years. The project was only possible because Gman gave you the platform. Without her, your code is just worthless trash on a hard drive. The moment he finished, the doorbell rang. Shinji-man's mother, Lu Munning, walked in. She wore a dark green suit, impeccably maintained. Her gaze colder than Shin-man's. I heard you were making a scene early this morning. She didn't even glance at the contract in my hand, speaking directly. Pei Yanja, a man needs to know his place. Man agreeing to marry you is you marrying up now you're threatening her with a project. What kind of behavior is that? Shinji-man said quietly. Mom, don't provoke him. Blue man sneered. Provoke him? He has what he has today because of you, doesn't he? She pulled an agreement from her bag and slapped it onto the table. Sign it. I looked down. A prenuptial property confirmation with an additional clause. After marriage, all technical revenue from the launch system belongs to Mansion Technology. Pei Yen Xiao only retains an annual salary and a one-time bonus. The amount was 200,000. 3 years of work bought out for 200,000. I looked up at Shinji-man. This is what you meant by registering this afternoon. Shinji-man's lips moved. It's to avoid future disputes. I laughed. Disputes? I picked up the pen. A flicker of hesitation crossed Shinji-man's eyes. Luo Munching's expression softened. Ji-hang even let out a quiet sigh of relief. They all thought I was finally going to cave, but in the signature line, I wrote 4 words, refused to sign. Then I tossed the pen back onto the table. I'll be handing this agreement over to my lawyer. Lu Munching's face twisted. You dare? I looked at her. I don't just dare, I'll also send this agreement along with Jiang's performance guarantee contract to the investors. Shinji-man rushed over and pressed down on the document. Pei Yinjao, don't push me. I looked at her hand pressing down on the paper. The engagement ring was still on her finger. Last night in the video, Jiang had touched that same hand. I reached out and took the ring off her finger. She froze. I placed the ring on the table. Shinji-man, from today we have no engagement. Her face went pale. I picked up my file bag and walked out. Lu Munning roared behind me. If you walk out that door today, don't ever think about coming back to the Shin house. I stopped. Don't worry. I never planned on coming back to a dump. Just before the elevator doors closed, I saw Ji-hang frantically grab his phone. I knew he was going to contact the tech department, but he didn't know. At 8 o'clock sharp, all back-end keys would become read-only, and the lock was in my hands. At 8:55 a.m., the Mansion Technology new product launch hall was packed. I didn't go in. I sat in the coffee shop across the street. A black coffee untouched in front of me. Shinji sat across from me, flipping through the evidence we'd organized last night. He looked up at me. "You sure you're not going in? Going in too early ruins the show." Shinji let out a laugh. "You used to seem so mild-mannered. When you finally draw blood, you're ruthless." I watched the entrance of the launch hall through the glass. Shinji man in a white suit with flawless makeup was chatting with Chin Yanbi, the head of the investment firm. She had a smile on her face. As long as it wasn't someone she knew, no one could tell she barely slept a wink last night. Ji Hang stood beside her, dressed in a deep blue suit with a badge pinned to his chest that read, "Project Chief Architect." I stared at those words for 2 seconds. Shinji saw them too. This badge could be evidence. I nodded. "Take a picture." Shinji raised his phone. At exactly 9 o'clock, the press conference began. The big screen lit up. The host announced in an impassioned voice, "Now, let's welcome Mr. Ji Hang, the new Chief Strategy Officer of Mance Technology and Chief Architect of the Lance House System." Applause erupted. Ji Hang walked onto the stage. He was good at putting on a show. Steady stance, faint smile, tone like someone who truly seemed used to big crowds before. He nodded to the audience. "The Lance House System is the project I've valued most since returning to China. It's not just a data security system. It's the underlying engine for future supply chain and medical data collaboration." Hearing that, I picked up my coffee and took a sip. The bitterness suppressed the nausea in my stomach. Ji Hang continued. "Its core concept is to give every piece of data a traceable, verifiable, and self-destructible life chain." Those words were written on my whiteboard 6 months ago. That day, Shinji man sat beside me and handed me a warm glass of milk. She said, "Yanzhou, you're especially captivating when you talk seriously about things." Turns out she wasn't listening to me explain the system back then. She was memorizing how to give my words to someone else. When Ji Hang reached the 3rd slide, the big screen on stage suddenly froze. He paused. The host immediately jumped in. "There's a slight network delay on site." Technicians backstage were frantically typing on their keyboards. The screen came back the next second. A red warning popped up on the demo interface. "Authorization has expired. External access permissions are revoked." The entire venue went silent for a moment. The smile on Ji Hang's face stiffened. Shinji man whipped her head toward the backstage. Shin Yanbei frowned. "Director Shin, what's going on?" Shinji man quickly explained, "Mr. Chin, it's a minor issue. The tech team will handle it right away." She pulled out her phone and called the tech lead. The moment the call connected, before she could even speak, the tech lead's voice was already trembling with panic. "Director Shin, it's no good. The core interface is locked down. We only have access permissions. No underlying keys." Shinji man lowered her voice. "Find Pei Yanzhou. Mr. Pei's account revoked all external collaboration authorizations from Mansion's technology last night. The backend now shows the rights holder executed a contract expiration closure. Then use the backup. The backup requires his signature key." 2. Shinji man's face drained of color. Inch by inch on stage. Ji Hang tried to hold it together. He forced a smile and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a security test we deliberately arranged. The Lance House system automatically seals itself when authorization is abnormal." As soon as the words left his mouth, another line popped up on the screen. "Unauthorized commercial demonstration detected. Related access records have been preserved." Murmurs started spreading through the audience. Shin Yenbi's face turned completely grim. I set down my coffee. Shinshur glanced at his watch. "About time." I stood up, crossed the street, and walked into the venue. The staff at the entrance recognized me and instinctively moved to block me. I handed him the lawyer's letter. "Give this to Director Shin or let me in." When the staff saw the law firm stamp on the letter, his hand trembled. I pushed the door open and walked in. Jihan was still on stage, sweat beading on his forehead. Shinji man saw me and her expression shifted instantly, like grabbing a lifeline yet like seeing a death warrant. "Yanzhou." She strode over quickly, her voice low. "Restore the permissions first. We'll talk about everything later." I didn't look at her. I walked straight toward the stage. Jihan's face twisted. Pei Yanzhou, this isn't the place for you to cause trouble. I picked up the backup microphone from the host's table. I'm not here to cause trouble. I looked at the investors and media in the audience. I'm here to make a rights declaration. Shinji Man reached out to grab the mic. I stepped back. Shinji was already standing beside me. Director Shin, mind your manners. We're recording everything. Shinji Man's hand froze. I opened my phone and cast it onto the big screen. First image, the filing timestamp of the Lance House System's first version architecture diagram. Second image, the core algorithm registration certificate. Third image, the temporary authorization contract between Mansions Technology and my personal studio. The contract's expiration date was yesterday. The audience erupted in uproar. Jihan's face flickered between pale and green. I looked at the chief architect badge on his chest. Mr. Ji, you just said the LS House System was the project you valued most since returning to China. Excuse me. Your return date to the country was last November and the first submission record for the launch system was March the year before last. I pulled up the submission log. It was densely packed with my account. Ji Hang's lips twitched. These technical materials are the result of internal company collaboration. I nodded, then explained why the core module's author's signature is my private key. I turned to the audience. Feel free to take photos or wait for my lawyer to issue an official statement later. Shinji Man finally spoke. Pinu, that's enough. Her eyes were red. Do you have to destroy me in public like this? I looked at her. Last night in the hotel hallway, when you said to let me sign the authorization tomorrow, did you think about destroying me? Her face stiffened. The crowd below grew louder. Ji Hong was furious. You're talking nonsense. I smiled and played the hallway video. In the footage, Ji Hong had his arm around Shinji Man. The audio was clear, almost cruel. Have him sign the authorization tomorrow. A little marriage promise is enough to keep him in line. When the video ended, the venue fell dead silent. Shensi Man stood there, her face pale. Shin Yenbei stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. President Shin, today's signing is postponed. Sherman hurried after him. President, please let me explain. Shin Yenbei glanced at me. Save the explanation for your lawyer. He left with his team. All the media cameras turned to Shinji Man and Ji Hang. I turned off the projection and placed the lawyer's letter on the podium. From now on, Mansion Technology is prohibited from using the launch system name, interface, demo materials, or any underlying architecture. I looked at Ji Hong, especially you. Ji Hong gritted his teeth. Hey, Yanjua, do you think this means you've won? I walked up to him and reached out to remove the badge from his chest. At least these 4 words, you don't deserve to wear. I tossed the project chief architect badge into the trash in the press hall. Every camera was rolling and Shinji Man looking at me showed real panic for the first time after the press conference collapsed. Mansion Technology's trending topic stayed up for an entire day. Chief Architect Fabrication Fiancée revokes authority. CEO's old flame steals project. Every word was like a knife stabbing into the face Shinji Man cared about most. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just as I stepped out of the law firm, I got a call from Shinji Man. I didn't answer. She called again. I still didn't answer. After the 7th call, she sent a message. Hey yo, do you have to push me to the brink? I glanced at it and forwarded it directly to Chin. Shinji replied, don't communicate privately. Keep records of everything. I replied with a Just as I put my phone away, a black business car pulled up to the curb. The door opened. Lu Manqing was sitting inside. Get in. I looked at her. Say what you need to say here. Her face darkened. Hey, Yingzhou, do you really think you're someone important? I said nothing. Lu Manqing said coldly. G-Man is under a lot of pressure now. As her fiancé, not only do you not help her, but you kick her when she's down. People like you. Even if you have some talent, no one will truly respect you. I looked at her calmly. So, you respect Ji Hong? Her mouth twitched. Ji Hong at least knows how to see the bigger picture. I smiled. Stealing someone else's work and faking performance guarantees. That's seeing the bigger picture. Lu Manqing's eyes flickered. I caught it. She knew. She knew from the start what Ji Hong had done and that 200,000 buyout agreement. She probably arranged it herself. Lu Manchang pulled a bank card from her bag. There's 5 million here. She held the card out. Withdraw the lawyer's letter. Issue a statement saying the press conference was a misunderstanding and claim the Lance House system was a joint development between you and Mansion. Once the storm passes, Sherman will register with you. I looked at the card. 5 million to buy my integrity, to buy your dignity, she said. Don't forget you and Jim have been together for 5 years. If she falls, you won't come out clean either. I took the bank card. A hint of contempt flickered in Lu Manqing's eyes. She thought I was tempted. I held the card up to her face. Ms. Luo, I've already recorded what you just said. Her expression changed sharply. I placed the bank card back on the seat, bribing a rights holder to withdraw a rights protection statement, threatening me with non-existent shared liability. I paused. You're more direct than your daughter. Lu Manqing gritted her teeth. Pei Yen Xiao. I turned and walked away. Behind me. She spoke coldly. Do you think having evidence in your hands is enough? Manton technology isn't something a nobody like you can shake. As long as Jim is willing, she can say you stole company data. She can say you're maliciously blackmailing. She can make sure you never work in this industry again. I stopped. That line finally had some weight because it hit on exactly what I'd been waiting for. They were going to bite back. I turned around, then let her say it. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Shen Ziman indeed released a statement. The statement claimed that the Lance House system was the result of Mansion Technology's internal team's work, that I had taken advantage of my position during my tenure to privately retain materials, and that my behavior at the press conference was emotional instability and malicious disruption. She didn't mention expiration. She turned everything into a couple's emotional dispute under the statement. A lot of people started trashing me. Biting the hand that feeds you. Couples fight affecting the company. So low class. Tech guys are terrifying. I read through each one. Not angry. Shinji called. They're starting to smear you. Yeah. Want to release the full evidence now? Not yet. What are you waiting for? I stared at the back-end logs on my screen for Ji Hung to make his move. Shinji paused for 2 seconds, then laughed. You think he'll delete the evidence? He definitely will. Why? I looked at the login records of Ji Hang's account on the screen. Because he doesn't understand the system at all. He thinks deleting the back-end documents will cover up the plagiarism. Turns out, I know him well. At 9:16 p.m., Jian logged into Manton Technology's internal document library using an admin account. At 9:21 p.m., he deleted the first 3 versions of the Lance House system's requirements records. At 9:24 p.m., he tried to overwrite the code commit logs. At 9:29 p.m., he opened the permission settings, attempting to remove my account from the historical contributors list. Every step, I was remotely preserving evidence because this admin account was something he'd only gotten from Shinji Man this morning. And Shinji Man didn't know that 6 months ago I'd added an audit chain to all high-privilege operations. It can't be deleted. The more you delete, the more traces you leave. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Sang Ling sent me an email. She's the manager of Manton Technology's legal and compliance department. Usually quiet, and we had little interaction. The email had only 1 sentence. According to the company's compliance procedures, any deletion involving disputes over core technology ownership must retain audit records. The attachment was an internal compliance policy. I read it and replied with 2 words, received. She didn't say anything else. But this policy was crucial because it proved that Ji Hang's deletion wasn't routine maintenance, but illegal evidence tampering. At 11:30 p.m., Shinji Man finally got through to me on the phone. I answered. Her voice was shaky. Are you satisfied now? I didn't say anything. She said, you weren't like this before. I replied calmly. What was I like before? She was silent for a long time. Before, you would stand by my side. I laughed. Shinji Man, I stood by your side for 5 years and you gave my spot to Jiang. The phone line carried her suppressed breathing. She whispered, I didn't know about Ji Hang deleting the records. My eyes turned cold, so she already knew. Then what do you know? She didn't answer. I pressed on. Do you know he wrote Lancho into the performance guarantee? She still didn't answer. I asked one last question. Do you know I heard what you said in the hotel hallway last night? Her voice trembled. Yanju, I was drunk last night. You weren't drunk. I looked at the newly exported evidence package on my screen. You thought I wouldn't leave. The line went completely silent. I hung up. On the screen, the system automatically completed the final evidence preservation. Every line Ji Hang deleted had become a knife he handed me himself. Shinji Man asked to meet me. Not at the company, not at the law firm. She chose the Shin family's old mansion. She said, let's talk calmly. Don't let outsiders see the joke. I agreed because I knew this wasn't a conversation. This was an encirclement. At 7 o'clock in the evening, when I walked into the dining room of the Shin family's old mansion, both sides of the long table were already full of people. Shinji Man, Lu Man, Ji Hang, a few of the Shin family relatives, and 2 directors from Mansion Technology. They sat neatly in a row as if they had rehearsed it. The moment I walked in, Lu Mashing spoke coldly, have a seat. I didn't sit. Just say what you need to say. Lu Manchang slammed her chopsticks down hard. Pei Yanzhou. You've been making a scene for 2 days. That's enough. Shimon is willing to give you a way out of old feelings tonight. In front of everyone, clear up this misunderstanding. One of the directors chimed in. Young man, feelings are feelings. Business is business. You can't destroy the company just because you didn't get the marriage certificate. Another relative added, yeah, Shimon is so accomplished. Being able to get engaged to her was your blessing in the first place. A man shouldn't be so narrow-minded. Ji Hang sat next to Shin Shimon, putting on a helpless expression. Yanzhou, as long as you publicly apologize, I can let the slander go. I looked at him. You're going after me. Yeah. Ji Hang straightened up. You said at the press conference that I stole your work. That's already seriously damaged my reputation. I laughed. Then call the cops. His face stiffened. Shin Sherman frowned. Piano, we're not here to fight tonight. I looked at her. Then how do you want to talk? She took a deep breath and pulled out an agreement. Lanzo system continues to be licensed to Mansion's technology. For the press conference incident, issue a statement explaining it as a couple's quarrel. Ji Hang keeps his position as Chief Strategy Officer, but he won't use the title of Chief Architect publicly anymore. She paused. As compensation, the company will give you 10 million in cash plus 2% of the project's revenue. Lu Manching added. And you and Shimon can still register your marriage. Hearing that, I really laughed. Shin Shimon's face darkened. What are you laughing at? Laughing that you still don't get it. I walked to the other end of the long table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. I'm not here for compensation. I'm here to end things. Lu Mashing snapped. End things. Penjo, what do you have to end it with? For 5 years, you lived in the Shin family's place, used their resources, relied on Shimon to introduce you to people. Do you really think you're clean? I nodded. Perfect timing. I pulled a stack of bills from my bag. For 5 years, I lived in Shinjiman's apartment. A total of 1,786 days. Utilities and property fees paid from my personal account. Living expenses separate. As for the Shin family's so-called resources, only 2 dinner invitations. First dinner, I secured the first hospital pilot for Mansion. Second dinner, I fixed your demo system crash on the spot, saving a 3 million contract. I pushed the bills across the table. If you want to settle accounts, let's settle them one by one. The dining room went silent. The director who had accused me of destroying the company looked down at the documents, his face changing. He clearly hadn't expected me to have the accounts so meticulously calculated. Shinji stared at those bills. Her expression complicated. When did you start preparing all this? From the first time you said I couldn't live without you. Her face went pale. That was 6 months ago. Ji-hung had just returned to the country at a company party. He joked half seriously. Yanja is really lucky being kept by Boss Shin. The whole room laughed. Shinji didn't defend me. She just patted my shoulder and said with a smile, "He can't live without me." That night, I didn't argue. I just went home and organized all the payment records. Turns out clarity doesn't come suddenly. It's built up from one disappointment after another. Jihin suddenly spoke. These bills don't prove anything. The Longzhou project was incubated at Mansion. No matter how much you contributed individually, you can't separate it from the company platform. I nodded. So, I brought a third document today. I placed a printed email on the table. Last May, Mansion Technologies Board rejected the independent project proposal for Longzhou system, citing high risk. Last June, I continued development under my personal studio last August. After you saw the pilot data, you signed a temporary license with me. I looked at the two directors who signed that rejection email. Both directors' faces changed at the same time. One of them muttered, "We really didn't see the potential back then, so the company didn't incubate Lanzhou." I looked at Ji-hung. "It was made by me after you rejected it." Ji-hung clenched his fist. Lu Mening slammed the table. "Enough." She stared at me. "What exactly do you want?" I looked at Shinji Man. "I want her to admit one thing." Shinji Man looked up. I asked word by word. "Shinji Man, yesterday at dawn, did you know that Ji-hung was going to use the Lance House system as a performance guarantee?" Everyone turned to look at her. Her lips turned pale. Ji-hung immediately said, "Shinji Man didn't know. This was my own decision." I didn't look at Ji-hung. I only looked at Shinji Man speak. Shinji Man's fingers tightly gripped the edge of the agreement. She was silent for over 10 seconds. Then she said, "I didn't know." I nodded. "Fine." I took out my phone and played a recording. In the recording, it was Shinji Man's voice. "Let him write the guarantee. I'll handle Yanja's side. Before the registration, I'll make him sign the permanent authorization." All sound in the dining room vanished instantly. Shinji Man froze in her chair. Ji-hun's face turned ashen. Lu Manqing suddenly stood up. "You recorded this." I stopped the recording outside the private club room. The door wasn't fully closed. I looked at Shinji Man. "You just gave me a chance, but you still chose to lie." Shinji Man's eyes reddened instantly. "Yen Zhou." I stood up and placed the notice of annulment on the table. Signing or not doesn't matter. Legally, we were never husband and wife anyway. I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, Shinji Man suddenly caught up and grabbed my wrist. "I admit I was wrong, but I never really wanted to destroy you." I looked down at her hand. In the past, when this hand pulled me, I would stop. Now it just felt foreign. I slowly pulled my hand back. "You did not want to destroy me. You just didn't expect me to fight back." I walked out of the Shin family's old mansion. The night outside was deep. My phone vibrated. Sang Langling had sent another email. The subject line had only 6 words. Ji-hang's overseas resume issues. I opened the attachment. The next second, I stopped in my tracks. Ji-hang's so-called overseas project experience was also fake. The next morning, Mansion Technology held an emergency board meeting. Shinji Man didn't invite me, but I went anyway because Shinji, as my proxy lawyer, received a notice to attend. The reason was land house system ownership dispute discussion. The atmosphere in the meeting room was oppressive. Shinji Man sat at the head of the table with a thick layer of concealer under her eyes. Ji-hang sat on her right looking even worse than yesterday. Sangling sat in the legal seat flipping through documents. Her expression unreadable. When Shin-shi and I walked in, everyone looked over. Ji-hang sneered. "Mr. Pei is really a busy man now bringing a lawyer to the board meeting." I sat down. After all, some people like to delete evidence. Ji-hang's face darkened. Shinji Man immediately spoke up. "Today's meeting is only about solutions, not rehashing old grudges." I looked at her. Without clearing old accounts, new solutions are meaningless. She suppressed her anger. "P. Yanua, what exactly do you want to restore the authorization?" First, Mansion Technology publicly admits that the core rights of the Lanhouse system belong to me. A stir rippled through the meeting room. Second, remove Ji Hang from all positions related to Landhouse. Ji Hang slammed the table. Dream on. I ignored him. Third, Mansion Technology compensates for the rights infringement caused by unauthorized commercial display and performance guarantee. Shinji Man's face turned cold. You're trying to force the company to die. I looked at her calmly. You were the ones who tied the company to my system first. A director couldn't help but ask, Mr. Pei, if the company acknowledges the ownership, would you be willing to continue cooperating? I said, we can talk. A flicker of hope appeared in Shinji Man's eyes. I added, but not with entities controlled by Shinji Man and Ji Hang. The hope vanished instantly. Shinji Man gritted her teeth. Do you have to bring personal feelings into business cooperation? I'm avoiding credit risk. I handed a file to Shinji. Shinji stood up and projected it onto the screen. Ji Hang's overseas resume appeared on the screen. Consultant at MIT Data Security Lab, project lead for North America Medical Cloud Chain, jointly certified expert by 3 international institutions. It looked impressive. Shinji clicked to the second page. After verification, Mr. Ji Hang's so-called consultant role at the MIT lab was actually a 3-month visiting training position. Third page, project lead for North America Medical Cloud Chain. Mr. Ji Hang's name does not appear on the actual project roster. Fourth page of the 3 certifications, 2 are completion certificates from paid courses and 1 certification number does not exist. The meeting room was dead silent. Ji Hang's face was flushed red. You illegally investigated me. Shinji smiled. Public resume verification isn't illegal. I looked at Ji Hang. Didn't you say you could complete the replacement system on your own? Shinji Man suddenly turned to him. You said yesterday at most 3 days to build a new framework. Ji Hang's forehead broke out in sweat. I can, but I need team support. I pulled up a technical candidate checklist. Now that all the directors are here, answer 3 questions. Ji Hang's eyes flickered with panic. I asked first, why does the Lancho system use dual-layer asynchronous signatures instead of single-layer key verification? He opened his mouth. I continued, second, during cross-institution data backtracking, why must 3-stage reverse validation be set up? His face turned pale. Third, after the system self-destruct chain is triggered, why can't it be directly rolled back? No one spoke in the meeting room. Ji Hang couldn't answer a single word. I looked at the directors. This is your new chief strategy officer. Ji Hang stood up, his voice trembling. Technical issues aren't something a strategy officer must master. I laughed. Then why are you wearing the chief architect badge? He was choked up. Shinji Man closed her eyes. She finally realized that Jiang wasn't just bad at expressing himself. He genuinely didn't know. Sang Ling looked up at that moment. President Shin, per compliance requirements, Mr. G's deletion of core project records last night needs to be explained to the board. Ji Hang whipped around to face her. Sang Ling, what do you mean? Sang Ling said calmly, I'm just stating the procedure. Shinman's face darkened. Deleting records. Sang Ling handed her the audit report. From 9:16 p.m. to 9:29 p.m. Last night, Mr. G used your temporary authorized account to delete and overwrite the early requirement records, submission logs, and contributor identifiers of the launch system. The meeting room exploded. The directors all turned to Ji Hang. Ji Hang panicked. I was just cleaning up useless documents. I cut in cleaning until only your name was left. His face turned ashen. Shinjiman's fingers tightened on the report. Ji Hang, why did you use my account? Ji Hang explained urgently. I was afraid P. Yanja would keep using the old files to make trouble. Jim, I did it for you. For me? Shimon's voice turned cold. You deleted the company's core audit records. Ji Hang was desperate for the first time. Shimon, if you hadn't said you'd definitely make him sign the permanent authorization, would I have done this? The moment those words were spoken, the meeting room fell into a terrifying silence. Shimon's head snapped up. What she feared most wasn't Ji-hun's incompetence. It was Ji-hun dragging her down publicly. One director spoke with a heavy expression. President Shin, this matter requires suspending Jae-hun's position and launching an internal investigation. Another director immediately agreed. I agree. Otherwise, the investors won't trust us. Shimon said nothing. Jae-hun stared at her intently. Shimon, are you going to sacrifice me? Shimoni's lips moved. I thought she'd at least hesitate for a moment, but she only took 3 seconds. Jae-hun, effective immediately. You are suspended from all duties and will cooperate with the investigation. Jae-hun froze. Then he laughed, a laugh that was ugly and desperate. Shimoni, you're ruthless. He pointed at me. Do you think pushing me out will make him come back? He won't. He planned this all along. I stood up, adjusting my cuffs. You're half right. Jae-hun glared at me. I projected the last document onto the screen. I did plan it, but it didn't start today. On the screen appeared a rights termination notice. The recipient list included all pilot clients, server suppliers, investors, and regulatory compliance advisors of Mansion Technology. Time sent 5:01 p.m. yesterday. I looked at Shimoni. Before you came home early this morning, the setup was already in place. Shimon's face lost all color. After Jae-hun was suspended, Shimon didn't come to me. She chose a different approach. That night, a long article appeared online. The title was 5 Years of Love Destroyed by a Man's Inferiority. The article wasn't signed, but all the content pointed at me. It said, I came from an ordinary family and had long relied on Shinimon for a living. It said, I was sensitive and couldn't accept that my fiancé was stronger than me. It said because the registration was temporarily postponed on the day. I held a grudge and used technical privileges to retaliate against the company. The article also included several photos. Me cooking in Shinimon's apartment. Me standing behind her at a cocktail party. Me hunched over a computer in the company break room fixing it. Each one was captioned with malicious text. Daily life of a kept man. The invisible man behind the CEO. A tech nerd preying on a strong woman. The comments section quickly went to hell. Some called me scheming. Some said I was trading feelings for profit. Some said Shinji was unlucky to be tangled up with a petty guy. When Shinji called me, her tone was ice cold. This article was a coordinated smear. I was sorting through files. I know you're not worried. She's the one who's worried. That's why she's doing this. How are you going to respond? I stared at the photos on the screen. Every single one was real, but the truth had been cropped out. The day I cooked, Sherman had a bad stomach ulcer, and I stayed up all night with her. The day of the cocktail party, I stood behind her because she asked me not to steal John's spotlight. The day I fixed the computer, Ji-Hang's demo system crashed and I stepped in to save the day. They used my efforts to prove I was beneath them. I closed the page. Not with words? Shinsi asked. Then what? With the documents. At 10 o'clock the next morning, I released a full statement. The title was Simple Statement on the Financial Project and Rights Relationship Between Me, Shinjiman and Mansion Technology over the past 5 years. Part 1 of the statement was living expenses, utilities, property management, daily shopping, medical care, travel costs, all backed by transfer receipts. Part 2 was project investments, server rentals, testing tools, external security audits, early-stage pilot client visit, travel expenses, over 70% paid out of my own pocket. Part 3 was the revenue Mansion Technology earned from the Lance House system, 3 pilot clients, 9 letters of intent, 2 rounds of funding valuation increases. Part 4 was my compensation for Mansion Technology, monthly salary of $8,000, no equity, no bonuses, no project dividends. The last page had a single line I wrote. I won't deny that I once loved Shinji Man, nor will I deny that I once cooked for her, attended events with her, and bailed her out. But giving isn't dependency. Silence isn't worthlessness. And loving someone doesn't mean letting them erase your name. After this statement went out, public opinion started to shift. Someone dug up the full video of the press conference. Someone found Mansion Technology's early promotional materials and saw that the Lance House system never had Ji-Hang's name on it from the start. Someone even screenshotted a photo of Ji-Hang wearing an architect chief badge and mocked it alongside his fake resume. In the afternoon, Shinji Man finally called. I answered. Her first words were, "I didn't write that article." I said, "But you let it happen." She went silent. I continued, "Only people close to you had those photos." Her voice sounded exhausted. "My mom hired a PR firm and you knew about it." She didn't answer. That was my answer. I laughed. "Shinji Man, you're still the same. You don't have to do the dirty work yourself, but you'll take the benefits." She caught her breath. "Yanja, I'm really a mess right now. Ji Hang, the company, my mom, it's all on me. I admit I handled this wrong." "It's not about handling it wrong." I cut her off. "It's that you've never seen me as an equal." There was a long silence on the other end. Then she said quietly, "Then what do you want me to do?" "A public apology." She froze now. "Yes." As the president of Mansion Technology acknowledged the ownership of the Land's house system, acknowledged that Ji Hang took credit for it and acknowledged that the article was false. Her voice tightened. "That would ruin the company." I laughed. "See, in the end, you still choose the company's face first." She quickly said, "No, I just need time." "You've already had 5 years." I hung up. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Shinji Man didn't issue a public apology, but she did something else. She filed a complaint with the industry association claiming I maliciously interrupted technical services, causing significant losses to the company, and requested that I be barred from bidding on related projects. When Shinji got the notice, he cursed. "She's trying to burn your bridges." After reading the complaint, I actually felt relieved. Good. She finally brought the fight into the rules. Shinji asked, "What do you mean?" I opened a folder. Inside were all the service records from the past 3 years. Every single system maintenance reminder. Every single authorization boundary email. Every single time Shinji Man read it and didn't reply. Every single time Jung overstepped his authority to use it. I said, "Public opinion can play the victim, but the rules only recognize evidence." The next day, the industry association hearing notice came down. The time was set for Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. The location conveniently was the conference center right downstairs from Mansion Tech. Shinji Man thought this was her chance to strike back, but she didn't know I was waiting for this day. Friday morning, Hall 3 of the conference center was packed. Industry association reps, partner representatives, Mansion Tech board members, media observers, all of them were there. Shinji Man sat in the complainant seat. She wore a black suit, her face cold, like she had finally pieced herself back together into that formidable CEO. Shinji Han didn't show up after being suspended. He seemed to have vanished, but I knew it wasn't that he didn't want to come. It was that Shinji Man didn't dare let him. Once the hearing started, Mansion Tech's legal counsel spoke first. Mr. Pei Yanzhou, fully aware that the Land's house system was undergoing a commercial launch, unilaterally froze the interface, causing the launch to be interrupted and investors to postpone signing contracts, resulting in massive losses for Mansion Tech. He finished and looked at me. "We believe this constitutes malicious service interruption." Shinji Man sat beside him, not looking at me. I picked up the microphone. "I have 3 questions." The moderator nodded. "Go ahead." "First, does Mansion Tech acknowledge that I signed a temporary commercial authorization agreement with the company?" Mansion's lawyer said, "Acknowledged, but there was a de facto cooperative relationship between both parties." "Second, did the agreement expire on the 12th of this month?" The lawyer paused. "Yes." "Third, does the agreement stipulate that renewal requires written confirmation from the rights holder?" The lawyer's expression soured. "Yes." I nodded. "I'm done with my questions." Murmurs rippled through the conference room. Shinji Man finally looked up at me. I projected the first piece of evidence onto the screen. Clause 7 of the contract. After the authorization expires without written confirmation from the rights holder, Mansion Tech shall not engage in commercial demonstrations, external promotions, performance guarantees, or client deliveries. I looked at the moderator. I didn't interrupt the service. I prevented unauthorized use after the contract expired. Mansion's lawyer immediately countered. "But Mr. Pei has been long involved in the company's RD. He can't simply be treated as an external rights holder." I opened the second piece of evidence. The board's rejection email from last year's project approval, the company finance's rejection record for last year's expense reimbursement, my personal studio server bill payment from last year. During the earlier phase of Lance House, Mansion Tech explicitly rejected the project and refused to bear the costs. I paused. Since you didn't to recognize it as a company project back then, you can't now after its gained value claim it belongs to the company. The room fell silent. An association expert asked, CEO Sean, did your company formally initiate the renewal process before the authorization expired? Shinjiman gripped the microphone tightly. At the time, both parties were preparing to register for marriage. We believed the cooperation would naturally continue. I looked at her. Did you register? Her face went pale. The moderator also looked at her. Shinji's voice dropped. No, I asked. Why not? She bit her lip. I pulled up the Civil Affairs Bureau records from that day. I waited from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. During that time, I called Shinjiman 12 times and sent 26 messages. She didn't reply. The call log appeared on the screen. Then a screenshot from the hotel elevator surveillance footage. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. I didn't play the most embarrassing parts, just the footage of her and Ji-hung appearing together along with a transcript of the hallway recording. The moderator frowned. What does this have to do with the authorization dispute? I said, it does. I switched to the next slide. Shinji's voice appeared in the transcript. Before the registration, I'll get him to sign the permanent authorization. I looked up. This proves Mansion Tech had no intention of a good faith renewal. Instead, they tried to use the marriage to trick me into signing a permanent authorization. Shinseon's face turned ashen. She stammered. That was just a moment of anger. I looked at her. Then what about this prenuptial agreement? I projected the $20,000 buyout agreement that Lumining had given me. The room erupted again. The association expert's expression turned completely grim. CEO Shin, was this agreement prepared by your side? Shinman's throat moved. It was prepared by my mother. I never signed it, but you gave it to me. She had no rebuttal. I continued presenting the third set of evidence, the audit trail of Ji-hun using Shenzi's account to delete back-end records, the compliance policy provided by Sang Ling, a side-by-side comparison of the submission log before and after tampering. The expert flipped through the documents, his frown deepening with each page. This is no longer a simple authorization dispute. It involves evidence tampering and claiming credit for someone else's work. The lawyer for Mansion Shin turned pale. Shenziman abruptly stood up. I did not instruct Jihen to delete the records. I nodded. So I didn't say you did. She let out a faint sigh of relief. But I continued, but your account was given to him. Your company appointed him. Your press conference let him take the stage as the chief architect. Your mother used an agreement to buy me out. Your lawyer filed a complaint against me for malicious service interruption. I looked at her. Shinsman, you can say that none of these things were done by your own hands, but every single one of them has benefited you. Shinsman's eyes slowly turned red. She didn't sit back down. She didn't argue anymore. The hearing lasted 3 hours. In the end, the industry association gave a preliminary opinion on the spot. First, Pei Yanzhou's termination of the interface based on contract expiration did not constitute malicious service interruption. Second, Mansion Shin Technology must not continue to use any names or technical materials related to the Lance House system until the ownership dispute is resolved. Third, it was recommended that Mansion Technology initiate a third-party investigation into Ji Hang's resume, the attribution of results and internal audit issues. Shinji sank back into her chair, looking completely drained. After the meeting, she chased after me into the hallway. Yanzhou, I stopped. She stood in front of me, her eyes bloodshot. Did you have to go this far? I looked at her. Shinji, today I only proved that I wasn't wrong. Her voice was barely a whisper. And what about me? I paused for a second. Whether you're wrong or not, you shouldn't be asking me. You should be asking yourself. She reached out as if to grab my sleeve. This time, she didn't touch it because Shi stepped in between. Miss Shin, please keep your distance. Shinji's hand froze in midair. I turned and walked away. Behind me, her phone suddenly rang. I heard her answer it. The next second, her voice changed. What? Ji-hong took the client data. I paused mid-step. Shinji looked at me. I smiled. Looks like he's starting to bite back, too. News of Ji-hong taking the client data spread quickly. Mansion Shen Technology was in chaos. The suspended chief strategy officer had copied the contact information, pricing plans, and technical requirements of 3 pilot clients and then contacted a competing company. Shinji Man finally tasted what it was like to be stabbed in the back by someone she trusted. But this time, she had no right to cry foul because Ji-hong was someone she had brought in herself. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Shin Yanbei asked to meet me. The location was a quiet, private tea room. When I arrived, he was already sitting there. On the table were 2 cups of tea and a document. Shiny Yanbei got straight to the point. Mr. Pei, I want to talk to you about the Lance House system. I sat down. Mr. Qin, aren't you afraid of the trouble? He smiled. What I'm afraid of is unclean technology. From what I can see now, your technology is much cleaner than Mansion Shin's. I didn't respond. Shiny Yanbei slid the document over to me. We originally planned to invest in Mansion Shin because of Lance House. Now that Lance House doesn't belong to them, there's no reason for us to take the detour. I opened the file, a letter of intent for cooperation. The terms were very favorable, but I didn't sign immediately. Mr. Qin, my dispute with Mansion Shin is still ongoing. I know, he said. That's why this isn't an investment agreement, just an intent. Once the ownership is clear, we'll go through the formal process. I closed the file. We can talk. Shin Yanbei looked at me. But I have a question. Go ahead. You clearly had so much evidence. Why didn't you release it all from the start? I picked up my tea. Because when people make mistakes, they always think they still have a way out. If I had thrown it all out at once, they would have just said I planned it all along. I wanted them to walk step by step right into the evidence themselves. Shin Yanbei laughed. You're more composed than I thought. I sat down the cup. Someone who isn't composed would have already cracked at the Civil Affairs Bureau door. As I said that, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered and Ji Hang's voice came through. Hey, Yanja, let's meet. I glanced at Shin Yanbei. He raised an eyebrow as if asking if I wanted him to leave. I pressed the speakerphone button. Just say it directly. Jihan let out a cold laugh. You're pretty smug now, aren't you? Turning me into a pariah, cornering you and snatching Shin Yanbei's partnership. Shin Yanbei sipped his tea slowly. I said, it's not about snatching, it's about choosing. Ji Hang's tone turned vicious. You think I've got nothing? Sheeny Man isn't clean either. Back then, to secure the first round of funding, she faked user data. Luo Munning helped her shuffle a few accounts and your Lance House system initial tests used Mansion servers. Don't think you can wash your hands of it. My eyes narrowed. So what? Give me 50 million plus a public settlement statement. Otherwise, I'll leak everything. I laughed. Ji Hung, are you blackmailing me? He paused. Don't make it sound so ugly. I'm just asking for what I deserve. What you deserve is a subpoena. I hung up. Shin Yanbei sat down his teacup. Did you record it? I nodded. Auto-recorded. Shinji once said that when talking to someone like Ji Hung, you should always keep your phone recording. I never thought I'd use it so soon. The next morning, Ji Hong dropped the bomb. He posted everything online. Mansion Technology's early funding data fraud, client profile packaging, and internal transfer screenshots. Shinji Man's name was back on the trending list. This time it wasn't about relationship drama. It was about corporate integrity. Mansion shareholders demanded an emergency meeting. Investors demanded refunds on prepayments. Clients suspended cooperation. Ji-hung thought he could drag everyone down and force Shinji Man to reach a truce. But he overlooked one thing. Among those screenshots he released, a few clearly showed his own involvement in the data fraud. He wasn't a bystander. He was one of the masterminds. At noon, Shinji Man messaged me. Can you meet me, please? I didn't reply. In the afternoon, she showed up at my studio. It was the office I rented after leaving the Shin family. Small, just over 40 square meters, a few desks, a couple of computers, a whiteboard, but it was clean, quiet, and everything in it belonged to me. Shinji-man stood at the door, her eyes red and swollen. She saw the system diagram on the whiteboard and froze. You used to draw like this at home, too. I didn't respond to that. Just say what you need to say. She lowered her head. Some of the stuff Ji-hung has is real. I know, she jerked her head up. You know, I'm not you, I said calmly. I don't pretend not to see someone's flaws just because I love them. Her face went pale. Yanja, about the funding data back then. I admit there was some packaging, but it wasn't illegal to that extent. The company was dying. I had no choice. I looked at her and later you felt you had no choice with me, too. She couldn't speak. Shinji-man, every time you crossed a line, you told yourself you were forced. The company was dying, so you faked data. Ji-hung needed a chance, so you gave him my work. The launch couldn't fail, so you forced me to restore the authorization. The public opinion was bad, so you made me take the fall. Tears streamed down her face. I was wrong. I didn't move. She finally said it. I really was wrong. For the past 5 years, I'd waited for countless explanations from her. Waited for her to say one fair word for me when others mock me. Waited for her to keep her distance from Ji-hung after he returned. Waited for her to call me on the day we were supposed to be at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Now she said she was wrong, but there wasn't a ripple in my heart. I handed her a file. This is the recording and transcript of Ji-hung blackmailing me. Shinji-man froze. You're willing to help me? I looked at her. No, I'm helping myself. Since Ji-hung dragged me into his story, I have to clean it up. The light in her eyes dimmed little by little. I continued. I'll submit this to the police and the industry association. As for you and Mansion Technology, you'll face whatever consequences come. Her voice trembled. What about us? I looked at her. We ended a long time ago. She stood there motionless for a long time before leaving. She suddenly asked in a low voice that morning, if I hadn't said that sentence, would you have forgiven me? I thought about it. No, she jerked her head up. I said, you had already betrayed me too many times before that day. 3 o'clock in the morning was just when I finally heard the last door slam. She left in tears. I closed the studio door. On the computer screen, Shin Ji sent a message. The police have accepted the materials regarding Ji-hang's suspected embezzlement of commercial data and extortion. I replied, got it. The real reckoning had begun. The day Ji-hong was taken away by the police, Shinji-man was being grilled at a board meeting. According to Sang Ling's later account, 20 minutes into the meeting too. Investigators walked into the company and asked Ji-hong to assist with the investigation in front of everyone. He had lost his usual composure, hair disheveled, eyes panicked, still shouting Shinji-man's name. Man, you can't abandon me. You knew about those things, too. Everyone in the conference room heard it. Shinji-man sat at the head of the table, her face as pale as paper. She didn't stand up, nor did she say a word to defend him. But Ji-hang's last sentence was enough to destroy whatever dignity she had left. That afternoon, Mansion Technology issued a public statement. Ji-hong was suspected of personal misconduct. The company had terminated his position and was cooperating with the investigation. The statement was beautifully written, pushing all the dirt onto Ji-hong, but netizens weren't buying it because the timeline was too clear. Ji-hong returned to the country and Shin-ji-man personally picked him up at the airport. Ji-hong joined the company and Shin-ji-man bypassed HR procedures for special approval. Ji-hong became chief strategy officer and Shin-ji-man made the final call at the executive meeting. Ji-hong wore the chief architect badge and Shin-ji-man personally confirmed the list before the press conference. She wanted to cut Ji-hong loose, but every cut was tied to her own hand. I didn't speak up anymore. At this point, I didn't need to. The evidence would speak, the board would speak, the partners would speak, the company employees she had once silenced would speak, too. 3 days later, Sang Ling asked to meet at a cafe near the company. She slid a USB drive toward me. This is the last piece of material I could legally take out before I quit. I looked at her. You quit? She nodded. Mansion can't hold on. The board is infighting. Luo Manqing wanted me to alter the compliance report and I refused. I didn't grab the USB drive immediately. Is this material legally sourced? She glanced at me. All of it is contract correspondence you're entitled to access. It includes the communication records between your studio and Mansion Technology plus the emails where Shinji Man asked the legal team 3 times to prepare a permanent authorization agreement. I picked up the USB drive. Thanks. Sangling took a sip of coffee. Don't thank me. I'm not helping you. I'm protecting my own professional record. She paused. And one more thing you should know. I looked at her. What? That day at the Civil Affairs Bureau wasn't a last-minute decision. My fingers froze. Sangling said a week before Shin asked me to send the final version of the prenuptial agreement to Lu Manqin. There was a line in the email. If Penju was emotionally unstable that day, delay the registration first and wait for him to cave. I was silent for a few seconds. So that was it. That day at the bureau, I wasn't waiting for a late arrival. I was waiting to be tamed. She planned for me to go from anticipation to anxiety, from anxiety to humility, from humility to signing anything. She bet on my love for her, bet on me not being able to let go of 5 years. Bet on me reigniting hope with it. Let's register tomorrow after she came back at dawn. But she didn't count on one thing. When a person truly goes cold, they don't fight. They just file the evidence page by page. Sangling looked at me. Are you okay? I smiled better than I thought. That was the truth. The truth didn't break me because I already knew the answer. It was just that now the last piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. That night, I opened the USB drive. The email timeline inside was complete. First email, Shinji Man asked the legal team to draft a permanent authorization agreement. Second email, Lu Manqing suggested capping the one-time buyout at 200,000. Third email, Ji Heng proposed writing the Lance House system into the Overseas Cooperation Performance Guarantee. Fourth email, Shinji Man replied, don't tell Yenju yet. Have him sign it before the registration. When I saw that line, I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. After a moment, I sent all the materials to Qin Ji. Qin Ji called back quickly. Enough? I asked. Enough for what? Enough to sue to revoke their unauthorized contracts. Enough to pursue Jiang for infringement. And enough to make sure Shinji Man can't hold on to management rights at the board. I didn't speak. Shinji asked again. Are you sure you want to go this far? I stared at the email on the screen. Every word from Shinji Man felt like a slap from the past. I said, I'm sure. No room for compromise. None. After the call ended, I got a message from Shinji Man. I'm downstairs at your building. Can we meet? I walked to the window by the street light downstairs. Shinji Man stood there. She hadn't driven. She hadn't brought an assistant either. The wind messed up her hair as she looked up at my window like she'd lost all her pride overnight. My phone buzzed again. I know you've already seen the email, Yanjua. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just want to say sorry to your face. I watched for a long time. Then I pulled the curtains shut. I didn't reply. Some apologies come too late. Too late to even deserve a doorbell ring. Half a month later, the court officially accepted the case. At the same time, the Board of Mansion Technology passed a resolution suspending Shinji Man from her CEO position. With a temporary management committee taking over company operations, Lu Manqing was ordered to withdraw from all decision-making meetings. Ji Heng's situation was worse. He was suspected of fabricating his resume, misappropriating business materials, deleting audit records, and extortion. The pile of evidence stacked up was no longer something a simple misunderstanding could explain. That afternoon, Shinji and I went to the courthouse to submit supplementary materials. As we walked out of the lobby, I saw Shinji Man standing at the bottom of the steps. She'd lost a lot of weight. She wore a gray coat and held a file folder in her hand. When she saw me, she took 2 steps forward. Yanzhou, Shinji whispered. Want me to handle this? I shook my head. I'll do it myself. Shinji Man walked up to me, her eyes red. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Those words reminded me of that day at the Civil Affairs Bureau. I'd waited for her for a long time, too. The difference was what I waited for was betrayal. What she waited for was reckoning. I asked nothing. She handed me the file folder. This is all the material I have on Ji Hung, including his chat records about proposing the performance guarantee back then and the payment receipts. My mom used to have the PR team write articles. I didn't take it. Give it to the lawyer. She gave a bitter smile. You won't even touch my stuff now. I said calmly, avoiding disputes. Her tears fell. Yenjo, you never used to talk to me like this, and I never thought you'd make me wait at the Civil Affairs Bureau all day. Her face turned pale. That day, I did not want to go. I looked at her. She continued. I'd already changed my clothes that morning and grabbed my household register, but my mom called me and said if I went through with the registration that day, you'd be entitled to a share of mansion in the future. Ji Hang also said that if I didn't sign the authorization first, the investors would think the company's core assets were unstable. She choked up. I was really messed up at the time. I thought since you love me, one day late wouldn't matter. I nodded. So, you chose one day late, she hurriedly said. But I regretted it later. I came back in the early morning and I really wanted to tell you we could register the next day. I asked, then why did you first say I'd waited for nothing? Her lips trembled. I thought you'd be like before, angry for a bit, then get over it. I looked at her. Shinji, man, you still don't get it. What made me leave wasn't that one day. It was that you always thought my pain could be scheduled by you. She cried so hard she couldn't speak. I walked around her, ready to leave. She suddenly pulled 2 household registers out of the file folder. One was hers. The other was the one I'd left at the Shin family's that day. I stopped in my tracks. Her voice shook badly. Yanju, I know it's ridiculous to say this now, but I still want to ask you one more time. Can we go back to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Shinji was stunned for a moment beside me. I stared at those 2 household registers and suddenly felt absurd. Half a month ago, I'd held mine waiting for her. Waited until sunset. Waited until the staff clocked out. Waited until the security guard told me not to sit at the entrance. Back then, I thought if she just showed up, I could swallow all 5 years of grievance. But now she was here with the household register with tears, with belated regret, and I had zero urge to take it. I asked her, what do you think marriage is? She froze. I said, is it a contract you pull out to stabilize me when you need it? Is it a tool to salvage your company's image when it's in trouble? Or did you only think of me as a backup plan after realizing Ji Hang was unreliable? She shook her head desperately. No, it's not like that. Then what is it? She opened her mouth but couldn't answer. I answered for her. You don't know because you've never seen marriage as a promise between 2 people. You only saw it as the highest reward you could give me. Shinji Man finally broke down sobbing. Yanja, I loved you. I looked at her. I believe you. A flicker of hope lit up in her eyes. I continued, but you love yourself more. That hope died out. I took my household registration booklet back from her hands. Her fingertips refused to let go. I pulled it out bit by bit. Shinji Man, I'm not going to the Civil Affairs Bureau anymore, but I will go to court. I will go to the arbitration tribunal, and if the police need me for an investigation I'll go, but marrying you, that's over. Her body swayed. I put my household registration booklet into my bag. One more thing. I looked at the booklet in her hands. Don't ever call me husband again. It disgusts me. She froze completely. Those words hit hard. So hard that even Shinji glanced at me. But I didn't regret them because this was the fruit she planted at 3:00 in the morning. When I left the courthouse, Shinji Man was still standing there. The wind lifted the hem of her coat. She looked like she finally understood. Some people don't leave in a fit of anger. They just never come back. That night, Mansion Technology released a public announcement. Shinji Man resigned as president and would cooperate with the internal investigation. Under the announcement, someone asked, will Pei Yanjo settle? I posted just one update. Rights will be pursued to the end. The feelings are over. 8 words, no explanation, no nostalgia, no looking back. 6 months later, the Lance's house system was relaunched under a new name. The new company was called Joja. It wasn't big at first. There were only 7 people. The office wasn't as luxurious as Mansion Technologies, but every desk, every account, every contract was clean. Chin Yanbei became our first strategic investor. He didn't interfere with management, only said one thing on signing day. "President Pei, this time you step into the spotlight." I smiled and took the pen. "This time, I won't give my name away again." On the day of the launch, I didn't invite many media outlets. No extravagant stage, no flashy lights, just a clean big screen, a few clients, some industry experts, and my team. I stood on stage and talked about the Lance House journey from the first line of code to its official launch. I talked about security boundaries. I talked about audit chains. I talked about authorization rules. I talked about why technical staff must have their names seen. Someone in the audience asked, "President Pai, after the Mansion Technology incident, do you still believe in cooperation?" I looked at the audience. Sangling was there too. She was now an external compliance consultant for Zojia. Shinji sat in the last row, arms crossed, smiling. Chin Yanbi held a coffee cup, looking even more relaxed than me. I answered, "I do, but I no longer believe in cooperation without boundaries. The same goes for feelings." The audience was silent for a second. Then applause broke out. At that moment, I suddenly remembered a long time ago the first time Shinji heard me talk about the system. Her eyes lit up as she looked at me. She said, "Yanjo, you're going to be amazing someday." Back then, I thought she really saw me. Later, I realized she only saw what I could give her. After the launch, Shinji walked over and patted my shoulder. "President Pei, congratulations." I smiled. "Don't be sarcastic. I mean it." He looked at the big screen on stage. "This is the real you." Sangling handed me a cooperation feedback report. All 3 pilot projects passed the initial review. "We can start phase 2 next month." I took the document. "Thanks for the hard work." She nodded. "I'm paid by contract, so it's no trouble." I laughed. This was the kind of relationship I wanted. Clear, equal. No one had to grab. No one had to lower themselves. That afternoon, news came from the court. Mansion Technology's unauthorized use of the launch system's demonstration materials was confirmed, and they were ordered to stop using them and pay damages. Ji Hang's case also had a result. He was sentenced to criminal liability and civil compensation. Lu Mashing for her involvement in spreading false public opinion and attempting to interfere with the investigation was completely excluded from Mansion's operations by the board. Shinji assumed management responsibility, withdrew from the company's core team, retained only a small number of shares, and was barred from holding senior management positions in similar enterprises for the next 3 years. These results weren't dramatic. No one fell to their knees and wept overnight. No one plummeted from the clouds into the mud instantly, but that was real. The real price wasn't a moment of disgrace. It was that from then on, every time she heard the word launch, she would remember what she had personally thrown away. 3 days after the press conference, I received an email. The sender was Shinjiman. The subject line had only 2 words, "Apology." I opened it. The email was long. She said she later went to that civil affairs bureau, sat in the seat I had once occupied. She said the staff didn't remember us, but she remembered that day I wore a dark gray coat and held 2 cups of coffee. She said she finally understood that waiting wasn't a small thing. Being abandoned wasn't a small thing either. She said the day Ji Hang was taken away, she realized she had mistaken a fake for a lifeline, but pushed the one who truly held her up into the abyss. She said she wasn't asking for a reunion, just wanted to say sorry. The last line of the email was, "Yanjo, if time could rewind, I would definitely show up at the Civil Affairs Bureau on time." I finished reading and didn't reply. Not because of hatred, because it wasn't necessary. Time wouldn't rewind. I had already walked through that Civil Affairs Bureau door once, standing there alone, waiting from hope to clarity. That was enough. That night, I drove home alone. My new place was by the river, not big, but with a great view. The living room didn't have Shinji Man's favorite cold white decor, nor the cheap bookshelf Lu Manchang had despised. I placed my old computer in the center of the study. Inside were the original codes of the Lance House system and the traces of my most miserable years. I didn't delete them because they weren't shame. They were evidence. Proof that I had once loved and proof that I later woke up. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an unfamiliar number. I answered. There was a long silence on the other end. Then came Shinji Man's hoarse voice. Yanja, I saw your press conference. I didn't speak. She said softly. The way you stood on stage, it's different from before. I stared at the river outside the window. People always change. She laughed, her voice laced with tears. I used to think you couldn't live without me. I said. I used to think that, too. The line went quiet, she asked. And now? I replied calmly. Now, I know I just couldn't live without the version of myself that kept letting myself down. Her breath trembled. Then, can we still see each other in the future? I said, no need. She finally cried. Yenjo, are you really not looking back at all? I looked at my reflection in the glass. That face showed no anger, no shame, no hesitation. I said, not looking back. Then I hung up. Outside the window, the river lights flickered on one by one. I put down my phone, opened my laptop, and continued revising the next system plan. In the top right corner of the screen, the new project name showed. Joja Phase 2. I typed the first line of code. No one was behind me, reminding me to keep a low profile. No one was using my achievements to curry favor with others. No one was treating marriage as a bargaining chip or love as a chain. At that moment, I finally understood the real counterattack. It wasn't making the betrayer regret nor shocking the onlookers. It was that when she dragged her broken self back to find you, you were already standing on your own path, too lazy to even offer an explanation. At 3 o'clock in the morning that night, she asked me, let's go register tomorrow, okay? I sneered and told her, no need. Half a year later today, my answer was still the same. No registration, no forgiveness, no looking back. My life no longer waits for anyone who arrives.